That is the History Center. I will call this meeting to order. I'm Nicole Shimoni. I'm stepping in for Patrick McCoy, who is taking a well-deserved respite this week, and I'm here with my cohort. This is the Westchester Borough Council meeting. It is June 17th, 2025, and it is 6:30 p.m. We will get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's have Lisa. All right, but before we get to the formal announcements on the agenda, I just wanted to say something, a little something. This past weekend, as many of us know, if you haven't heard, please. We almost had a tragedy in Westchester, and if that tragedy didn't happen this past weekend, based off of what has been found since the event, there was a tragedy somewhere in the works. And, it's very unfortunate that we're in these times and we have to be aware in this way of these kinds of things that could be happening. But I'm grateful. One thing I am grateful is for two things. First of all, the people that identified that there could be a situation brewing and alerted the police. And then the police who came out and did their thing in what looked like, there was a video out there, what looked like from a very clean and very calm manner, taking care of the situation in order to make sure that the thousands of people on our street were kept safe and were able to carry on with the event, the protest that was happening. So again, I wish this wasn't happening in our town. I'm sure we all feel that way. And it's a shame that we have to know that this could happen. But again, thank you for everyone being out there and seeing things and saying things and doing things and keeping us all safe at this point in time. So, and Mayor, I don't know if you want to say anything.
I just want to take a moment to say thank you for thanking them. Thank you, Chief Lee, and all of the officers of the Westchester Area Police Force, because this is why we go through such rigorous training, such rigorous selection process to make sure that we are getting the best people possible. And it shows because even on social media, which can be awfully critical, I went to one of the sites and they were like, well, why aren't they banging them to the ground and knocking them up against the this or that? And they were like, well, this is Westchester. Westchester police don't act like that. Westchester police treat people fairly and calmly. And they were like, and then a bunch of people started talking about how they used to live in Westchester or they lived in Westchester. And the Westchester police aren't like other police places. And it was remarkable for me to see that on social media because I'm like, people aren't very kind on social media. And to see that, I think it was the testimony to a lot of hard work that the chief and the previous chiefs and the officers all put in to make Westchester Police the finest possible police. And for that, I say thank you, Vice President Shimoni, for acknowledging that hard work. You're in the moment and you're working the best you can. And I applaud them all. Thank you.
All right, so moving on to the announcements that are on the agenda. Public hearing, June 18th, tomorrow at 6:30. An ordinance amending the Code of the Borough of Westchester, Chapter 54, titled Electrical Standards, Chapter 22, titled Mechanical Standards, and Chapter 82, titled Plumbing. by amending the license requirements for electrical contractors, mechanical contractors, and plumbing contractors performing work in the Borough of Westchester. Also, the borough administrative offices will be closed on Thursday, June 19th, in honor of Juneteenth. With that, I'll open it up for comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda.
I was one of the, what they called peacekeepers designated for the rally. And it was great when I was able to brief the other peacekeepers that were there that they could trust our police, that they didn't have to worry about our police causing any of the troubles or them having to not work with the police, that I was able to say, no, the Westchester police are people we can trust, people with honor, and people we can definitely work with. So again, I want to add my thanks to the police department and the mayor's leadership and the Chester County sheriffs as well. We're also intimately involved in that. So thank you to everybody for keeping the rest of us safe.
Come on up.
Hi, good evening. My name is Margie Swart, and I'm a West Goshen Township resident. I consider myself a...
Hey, Madam Chair, point of order. This is for residents of the borough. This person just said she's from West Goshen, and she's not a taxpayer member of the borough, and it's for residents only.
So I would ask the question, is what you're about to say pertinent to the Borough of Westchester, and we could find value from it?
Yes, I believe so. Well, and I disagree with...
I need a second, please, on the point of order.
Second, I think what we have to do is you have to be entertained to be on an agenda, ask the committee chairs.
Well, first of all, I would like to say I disagree with Mr. Flynn's assessment that I'm not a taxpayer because our West Goshen
Is this
taxes...
taxpayer of the borough of Westchester or a resident or a business owner?
Sorry, Mr. Flynn, we let her finish.
Madam Chair, we have a second on the point of order.
So with this, and let's just everyone relax, but this is again for residents of the borough, owners, business owners, taxpayers. Are you a taxpayer of Westchester Borough? Do you live in Westchester Borough? Yes or no?
No, this is regarding Saturday's incident. And do you think if that man would have taken action, he would have only shot at Westchester Borough
No, I'm
residents?
not saying that.
Well, my comments are about Saturday's incident, and it's a short comment. Yeah.
I would like to let you speak.
Thank you.
I
We have a second,
understand.
Madam.
What, we need to take a vote?
We have a second on
Do we
the
need
point
to,
of order.
do we need to take a vote, Sean? Or can we just let her say she's grateful to the police officer and everything Chief Lee and his team has done over the weekend?
I'm not being critical of the police officer.
I said grateful. I said grateful.
Grateful.
No, I said you were grateful. No, I'm not. My point is, I'm trying to let you speak.
I understand that. But I think what Mr. Flynn and Mr. McInnes have to say in their objections says more about them than it does about me. I'll be the better person and take my seat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sean, may I ask though, what is the process here, just for the future?
We got legal counsel on this issue over an email, and I'm apologize, I don't remember the counsel we got on this, but Mr. Flynn was part of that email chain too.
Sunshine Law does not require council to allow non-residents and people who do not own property in the borough to speak at a public meeting. Kristen Camp, June 12th.
Yes, we're not required, but that doesn't mean we're not allowed to let that happen.
Robert's Rules of Order is if I make a point of order and there's a second, the person is not required, not allowed to speak.
Or do we need to do a vote? That would have been my question.
Yes, two
I'm sh-
people are not a majority.
Yeah, that's.
It's a 7 council person board.
All right.
You want-
Quick record.
I don't know whether to speak or not. I am a resident of the borough, and I think what she was going to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't a criticism so much as a just wishing there was more information released to the residents in a more timely manner. That. All right.
So let me just interrupt because I saw this on social media. to the
Yeah,
mayor-
that's
to
what
the
I'm
mayor's-
going
To the
from.
mayor's point about this, right? And I saw this on social media. People said, oh, the mayor should talk or the police chief should talk. Well, this is an ongoing investigation, okay? So I think that they know more than we do, and they did say what they had to say. The district attorney had a press release. There was a press release by the Westchester Police Department. So it's not like the mayor and all these other people are totally not with it or trying to cover up something or whatever. That's not the case. It's a thorough investigation, okay? And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So let's put an end to it. All the armchair quarterbacks, the comments, maybe whoever else wants to listen, join the police department, join the district attorney, join the bomb squad, do those things, and then we'll let them talk. But these guys handle it very, very professionally. Thank you.
All right. All right. We will, from a process standpoint, we will work through our process. I am a big believer that people should be able to speak and be heard and all of those things, whether we agree with what they say or not. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that we kind of went through this situation here tonight. That said, I will move on. Thank you for taking your seat again, and we'll move on to the next thing. Dare I say, anybody else want to make a comment before we move on? Daryl? No, nothing? Okay. All right, let me put my glasses back on. Reports and presentations, do we have any? No? All right, let's move to old business. Motion to approve May 21st and 22nd Borough Council meeting minutes. All right.
I make a motion that we would, we're not making motions tonight, right?
Oh,
We're
okay.
just,
Yeah, all right. We good to put it on consent? Any questions? All right.
No.
5-0. Did you say no, Brian?
I said I have no issue.
Oh, no.
No issue.
No issue. Okay, good. All right. Okay, good. No issue.
Not going to be that meeting where I'm objecting to meeting minutes. I'll tell you that right
All
now.
right, we are good. All right, new business. The ACT Committee, Brian Travis.
Yeah, we just have one item from this series of meetings in July or in June. We want to put on the table a motion to schedule a public hearing on July 16th at 6:30 p.m. to approve the 5-year business plan with the Westchester Business Improvement District. We reviewed the plan. Committee recommendation was 3-0. We'd like to put that on the consent agenda for approval for council.
Was no one concerned about the millage being the same? Did anyone feel like the millage needed any?
So we've talked about, let's bring it up. I was not concerned. I didn't have any concerns. Did you guys have any concerns? We didn't talk about it. If you have something that you want to discuss.
I just think the question is, I mean, if it's a 5-year plan, right? If we agree to it now, they can't increase the millage for 5 whole years. Do we believe that the bid will be able to be sustainable? Do we think that's the right thing? Is there going to be like a thing in 5 years where they have to increase it like a lot more because they haven't increased it over a steady period of time? Were there any conversations or concerns over that?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, one of the items that's part of this plan is to include more businesses, which would overall include that would add to the budget.
Include,
so.
yeah, include more revenue for it.
Right.
But what if they don't make their goal of including more businesses over a 5-year period? Then what happens?
I don't know. There's nobody here from the bid to answer that question.
I'm on
Oh,
it.
sorry. There we go. Sheila.
I have obviously been a bit remiss in some of my duties as of late, but there is a plan that I don't think the way the bid is run right now, I don't think that they are looking to burden any of the businesses in an increasing way. And like, I think they want to maintain the pressure that they already have. They feel like they're okay there. And with the expanse of the district, and there has been no real opposition to the expansion. And it would be significant. You would need significant pushback to stop the expansion. Does that? So it all looks like it's going to go through. There's going to be more businesses. There's going to be more properties. Doesn't seem like John's very worried about that. Is my impression.
You guys good? All right, okay. You guys are good then.
I mean, we can always revisit that if you would like. And like I said, I've been a bit remiss as of late. So I did not ask that question or have that conversation directly.
Mr. Shamani, would you be more comfortable having,
Yeah, maybe have
tomorrow?
Brian, yeah, put it on discussion and have Brian just explain his,
The only matter before council right now is to make an announcement that there's going to be a hearing July 16th.
Yeah, that could be all discussed at that hearing.
Yeah, the content, the substantive conversation you're having about the plan itself can be had at the hearing. This is just a matter. Remember last month we amended the agenda that put this item on the agenda, and it wasn't really clear we actually voted to actually advertise it.
okay, so this is just to advertise. All right, oh, I'm good with that then. Okay, all right, thank you for the clarity. All right, so it sounds like everybody's good with that. Okay, we'll put that on consent. All right, parking committee.
First is a motion to approve the Flash Express pay parking agreement.
All right, committee recommended it,
We
3-0.
recommended it 3-0.
The Flash will provide 1 year of free payment enhancement technology for both borough garages to allow registered parkers easy in and out access to all Flash locations. So it's some kind of free agreement for, yeah.
So this is going to make it, for anybody who already has Flash, they're going to be able to just go in and out of the garages like they are in other areas. It's just sort of looping Westchester in with a larger system.
All right, any questions from anybody here? I forgot the last time, but any comments from those in attendance? All right, so we're good, consent?
The second is a motion to temporarily amend the memorandum of understanding with Hotel Indigo for overage of allotted monthly parkers in the amount of $7 per day per car. This was also 3-0.
Yeah, and my understanding is this might even get further, you're going to start here and there might even be further conversation.
The further conversation is about capping the number of spots, but that is sort of a secondary conversation. This is to start billing them for the additional spots. Let's start charging.
That is. Good. All right, any questions here? Anybody from the audience have any questions in attendance? Okay.
3 is a motion to approve updated resolution for Brandywine Valley Wayfinding Project. This was also 3-0.
Okay, any questions from the attendees? All right, sounds like we're good on that one, consent.
And 4th is a motion to approve the resolution regarding handicap spaces at 708 South Adams and 108 South Adams.
All right, any questions? Any questions? All right, I guess good with consent. All right, Public Works.
Good evening. We have one item on Public Works, motion to approve the sale of items on the muni bid. There are 2 salt spreaders, 3 decommissioned Ford Explorers, and a decommissioned Public Works truck 44-16. The items over $500 in value require approval for sale by council. And that was a 3-0 because we're getting rid of broken or discontinued equipment.
Any questions from anyone here? Any comments from those in attendance? No? All right. Finance and Revenue Committee.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Shimoni. This is to discuss the 2025 Christmas parade and fees. We've had that discussion for about a month or so publicly amongst ourselves as well as with members of the Chamber of Commerce. And I don't believe we're that far apart as far as what we would like to see as far as funding and cooperation, working with the Chamber and ensuring that we can have, a Christmas parade every year and making sure that we don't have to keep doing the same old, right, every year. And so I just want to gauge your thoughts as well as the public's thoughts regarding funding. So I'll just open it up to comments on the dais.
So I know we've been discussing this every year, to Mr. McGinnis's point, for as long as I can remember. And I thought last year we had, gone through and revisited the fees and adjusted the parking revenues. And I understand that those fees did not come in as the adjustments that we made did not come in as expected for the Christmas parade. I know there have been suggestions to add it to the budget, to come up with a annual plan, et cetera. I believe that we need to apply that consistently, not just for the Christmas parade, although that is a very unique event and it attracts a number, probably the largest crowd that we have. But I think we should be consistent. What I'd like to suggest is that we consider, we've already done the adjustment of the fees. We did lower the parking fee to $10. There's been discussion of a special event fee of $20 or whatever we decide that is. We have the addition now of the surface lots that we can also rent for those special events and apply that special event fee. I'd like to see us look at increasing the parking fee for the special events and consider some allocation of that revenue to the event to offset costs. So if we're at $10 today, we go to $20, we're not really, we're not gaining that. But if we are, I've heard the term donating services, we're not really donating services of the police. That still comes out of the budget. We still have to pay those police officers and public works employees. We've got to find a way to fund this so that it's not impacting, our budget. So that's my suggestion of something for council to consider going forward.
I am very much in support of that suggestion.
So do you want to
I
go down the gamut and then we can kind of see
Okay.
where we are?
To Ms. Dorsey's point, we looked at the annual costs the last 3 years of the Christmas parade. And it normally comes in, and if I get the wrong number, please correct me, Katie, right around $17,000 to $18,000 for public works, for police, for ambulance, to put the Christmas parade on. And then we do an adjustment based on the parking, which is always very volatile. We just don't know what the parking's ever going to be. And by using Ms. Dorsey's point, and I suggested it, using the surface lots, that's going to be a problem. For me, it's a problem because people are going to be so excited. They're going to rush in, see a parking spot in the surface lot and park and take their kids and run to the Christmas parade. So, and they're going to forget to pay because there's no one there even though Ramsey said that the kiosk is there to make sure that people pay. I did mention earlier on that if they got tickets, could we split the cost of the ticket with the chamber? And I was told, no, that's not allowed. Because I know the people are going to get tickets. And, I want to make sure the chamber didn't lose out on their money. Since the fee, it normally comes in around, let's say $15,000 or $16,000. Why don't we, to Ms. Dorsey's point, why don't we set a fixed number in our budget, in our Parks and Recreation budget for the Christmas parade of 50% of the actual cost of the labor. So, if it's 10,000, 15,000, it could be 6,000, 7,000 we put in our budget, plus raising the cost of the parking to $20. And that way there, the chamber is rolling the dice on how much they're going to get out of the parking, because we just don't ever really know. Because people come in to work and stay here, and their families do Uber in, and they leave their cars in the parking garage, and then they drive home afterwards. So there's some misconception there of getting money for that way. So, I agree with Ms. Dorsey and Ms. Vaccaro that we have to come up with I said 50% of the cost, whatever the cost was. So.
Okay, so right now I'm hearing, are you saying this just for the Christmas parade or for all events? Because Lisa, I think you said for all of it.
Yeah, I think we need to, and that was going to be my comment, is that, we need to do this consistently across all events. We can't pick and choose who we're going to do it for and who we're not going to do it for. And I would suggest that there's a event fee that starts that day at $20. So whether you're parking at 6 p.m. or 6 a.m., you're going to pay the $20 unless you have a monthly or a weekly pass.
I think I still agree with these thoughts. I'm nervous about what constitutes an event. If we're run on Sharpless Street, are we subsidizing that like we do the Christmas parade? I don't think we are, but we need to be exceptionally clear as to what we're talking about.
I agree. And those events, just using that as an example, don't typically come before us and ask us to fund it. But we also don't, necessarily want to encourage them to do that either.
Yeah, I'll chime in because I've had some thoughts on this, because my overall feeling is, I'm from the amount perspective, I'm somewhat agnostic. I will kind of be flexible depending on what all of you, my peers, think. The process and how we apply it, I want to make sure is very clear. To that point, I don't know if it's is it stuff that's in town center? Is there because that really is what impacts local businesses. Is there an estimated attendance floor that we say, if your attendance is this much or more, then you can apply for these potential adjustments or 50%, and kind of put a couple of guidelines and rules. I think we were given some examples of other communities. It has to be a nonprofit, things like that, which most of our events are nonprofit anyway. But a couple of things like that may create a little bit more of a standard, so we're not negotiating with everyone, because that is my concern, that we end up negotiating with all sorts of organizations, and that just overrides what we tried to do last year, which was lower our fees. So we had an everyday low price for everyone, as opposed to having to go back and forth with all these different organizations when they asked for discounts. So we already lowered the prices. So it's yes, how do we standardize? And those are just a couple of thoughts that I had.
I mean, I kind of echo what Lisa's saying. I think we should have a standard or some sort of a very simple, easy to understand. If it's 50% of the labor, most of our expenses are police and public works. There's some ancillary expenses around cones and some other things depending on the event. And almost all these events are manned by volunteers too. So I'm looking at something that our chamber president sent me. It's a list of 15 criteria. This is an example that we talked about I think it was last month, about what qualifies, to answer your question, what qualifies as an event. And one of the biggest things is it has to bring some sort of economic impact into the borough. It has to be open to the public. There are a couple big items that a lot of the events that we have probably wouldn't qualify, and it's on the onus of the event holder and the sponsors to actually fill out this 15 question criteria form, and most of them won't get through it. So depending on, based on what we have right now, I think the only one that we could probably off the top of our heads say would be the Christmas parade and maybe restaurant festival or something along those lines right now. Maybe a restaurant festival. But I think in terms of a rubric, I agree with what Bernie was saying. 50% seems like a generous discount for our services. I'm a huge supporter of these events. They bring vibrancy into the community. Obviously, based on just this last weekend's incident, we have to take them seriously. So we need to know how many people. But I think if that was not something that was listed in the criteria that we got from Katie, but if we know the size of these events or an estimated population, that would help, I think. So I don't know. I think we need some sort of a list. It doesn't have to be as comprehensive as 15, but I do think that we should support the Christmas parade, for instance, because we know it brings in some economic benefit to us. It's open to the public. Nobody has to pay for it. The thing that people pay for is parking. So I think if we just looked at the Christmas parade and we said, if we halved the labor expenses for police and public works and maybe some of the other expenses thrown in, it would be around $7,000. So if we could budget something fixed, that would be my preference. The parking fee, I understand. If we have a rain day and the event holder is planning on having some of that come back to them, and they're banking on that, it's a variable cost or it's a variable expense that they may not get back. So I would prefer to keep it something very simple and very fixed. If we want to charge $20 for parking, that could help offset our contributions to the discount. So I would be fine with keeping the parking, having the event fee parking for $20, and then having that $20 help offset some of the costs of discounting our services. Simple.
So, Mr. Travis, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, because I think we're saying the same thing with the addition of you suggesting there's a fixed cost. So whether it's the Christmas parade or the chili cook-off or some other new event that's held downtown, there would be, we would allot $7,000 or whatever the number is. Pick a number.
It would be 50%. I kind of think that 50, discounting by 50% would be pretty clear. We're supposed to be very clear about the estimates for these costs up front to the event holders and the sponsors. So if we have an estimate, then we would discount Public Works.
So discounting
Police.
our fees 50%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because we've done a good job of understanding how much these things cost us now. We've evaluated it. We've tweaked a few numbers. We know how much they cost, so we can give a good estimate. And so I'm suggesting that we discount our services by 50%, whatever that number, if it's $15,000 for the Christmas parade for labor, it would be, we would contribute half of that, which would be $7,500.
And then do we also cap it? Not more than?
So that's another question. I think we need for all the events, I think we need to figure out what types of events similar to what the city of Wilmington, North Carolina did. I think there would have to be some sort of a economic contribution to the businesses and a benefit of service to the residents
Okay, so
at minimum.
let's hear Brian, and then I'm going to recap I'm making a little chart and then oh, okay.
The mayor, go ahead. Okay. So I agree with the 50% cost, and I think that that should be evaluated every couple of years. And I would have to say, it would have to be reevaluated after the new police and public works contract is up. So that way we know what those costs are going to be in the next couple of years. We just had a contract that I believe is a year or so old, right? So then we would reevaluate this fee structure in the next 3 years or 4 years or whatever. And then that way we would know, to the point of we would need to decide what constitute a borough-wide event. So for example, I mean, on my understanding would be something that would be the entire borough. So we wouldn't be looking at an event in Bernard Street or a run or anything along those lines, but more of the restaurant festival, the chili cook-off, as well as the Christmas parade. And but what we can do is use the parameters that are set in this document so that everyone else knows ahead of time just what they're getting into. So that's where I'm at. As far as the fee, the parking fee, I do believe for special events, those 3 special events that I mentioned, Restaurant Festival, Chili Cook-Off, and Christmas Parade, that should be a parking fee of $20. To Ms. Dorsey's point, we've discussed this before, moving that up in the day. And that could help us offset our costs to what Mr. Travis said, and that would not be shared. So I'm fine with 50%, raising the parking fee and expanding it to the lots, to Mr. Flynn's point, to $20. And and again, reevaluating it every year after in which the public works and police contracts have been ratified.
Just one point of clarification. The Restaurant Festival is a Westchester Borough event. It's run by the borough, it's run by Parks and Rec, so it's not quite the same. Yes, we should have the special event fee. But this is not contributing to a nonprofit that's running an event.
I think that is a big issue for all of the events we're talking about, when we're talking about events and then we have these borough run events, it gets very confusing as to what constitutes an event. Porch Fest is a massive event, but it's not in town center. So we need to be very clear. Like we need to sit down and hash this out at great length to cover all these points. And the things that are borough events versus the things that are non-borough events in our borough, those lines need to be 100% clear. And I think we need to take a long time doing this.
I think we need a short time, because the short time.
I love that idea.
Because they got a plan. They got a plan, right? And they need to know what's coming down the road. We can't let them know later and then ask for forgiveness, but I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Apple and oranges are both fruit, but you shouldn't confuse the two. I think that the Westchester Christmas Parade is in a category by itself. It stands alone and should be treated as such. First of all, it's considered a Westchester event. However, it's not run, controlled, or operated by Westchester. It's done so by the Chamber of Commerce, to the accolades of Westchester, because they do such a great job. However, because it's not run or controlled like the Restaurant Festival or originates from the borough, it's problematic. But however, the borough benefits. I can say that the Westchester Christmas Parade cuts across all lines. It cuts across cultural lines, racial lines, economic lines, to be available for everybody in the community. If you're a young, struggling, single mother, you can still bring your children up, bring your snacks, bring your hot cocoa, and enjoy the parade. Anyone can come and enjoy it if you so fit and so desire. And so that's why it has that universal appeal not to mention that it is Christmas. But I think it stands alone and it should be treated as such. It is not the restaurant festival, although that is probably the only event that comes close to it in its magnitude because it's available to everyone. However, it is run, signed, sealed, and delivered by the borough. So it differs. So you can't consider them the same event. You cannot consider all of the different runs, the Porch Fest, the Chili Fest. These are operated by private entities in specific areas of the town. Not everyone goes. It does not have the impact or magnitude of the Christmas parade. Just because you have 2,000 or 3,000 people does not mean you have 15 to 20,000 people. I think we need to treat this separately. And you cannot say just because we give one student X amount, you give another student the same amount. You cannot do that. All students aren't created equal. Fruit is not, and neither is the Christmas parade. So I think we need to treat this differently, and we need to show our appreciation and be consistent. And we need to do something in place for the next 2 to 3 years. I do agree it requires maybe a little more conversation than tonight, but to Brian's point, we need to act promptly for this year. My opinion is this, my thought is this, we do something, the police department is going to be there. And just this weekend, we know that we need more policing, not less. So they might have to incur more expenses from other policing because our police department is at capacity for the Christmas parade. So they may have to incur expenses from elsewhere to get more coverage, more security. So I think that we should and can donate our police coverage for the Christmas parade. You know, ideally that comes in around 10,000. That has nothing to do with public works or anything else, just the public safety. Because at the end of the day, that's what we should be concerned about, public safety. They do what they do. The Christmas, the chamber can pay that bill. The parking, we should keep it. We should keep all of the parking for all of the events, all of the time. I've said this repeatedly, simply because there's very few opportunities for the Westchester Borough to fundraise, quote unquote. This is the only way, parking. And if you know, it's like hotels. If they charge less on a Friday and Saturday, would that make sense? So it does not make sense for us to give away our parking when it's only the one thing we have that we can perhaps recoup some of the expenses at no time. So that's what I think. We should back it. We should back it with our police to the extent we can. We should look at this every 2 to 3 years. We should not compare it to these other events because they are not the same. Pure and simple. They are not the same.
Thank you. And
Okay, so thank you. I am going to do a loop with my chart because I think for the Christmas parade, we may be able to get to an agreement on something tonight and then talk to other things later. But let me do my loop. Oh, all right, one more thing.
Just wanted to add one more thing, and I don't know if that should be a check written or in-kind donation to them, but keep in mind, it has the name Westchester on it, and the Chamber of Commerce represents Westchester exceedingly well because the borough certainly does not have the time or the talent to put together what they put together in the 6 months they put it together.
Okay. All right, we're going to start with Lisa. All right, you had said we need to define events. So I have that as a thing that we need to talk about in the future. You had also said increase parking to $20. Yes. Or were you up for keeping all the $20? Or did you want to give some of that away?
No, I was suggesting that we allocate a portion of the event parking fee to the event. Right. So, and whether we're again, and I'll say it again, whether we're donating police services or we're giving parking money, it's coming out of the same pot,
Okay.
right?
So you would be okay if we said we were going to increase parking to $20 and we kept all the parking money? Could you, let me get to the other part. Okay. We'll circle back to that question. All right. Are you okay with extending to surface parking, not the surface
Absolutely.
lanes? Okay.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have, it could be $25. We just need to figure out what that
Okay.
sweet spot is.
All right. Okay. You're okay with either 50% labor, either police $10,000, or either keep giving away some of the $20? Are you okay?
I'm okay with an amount,
An amount,
an amount.
like picking an amount.
Right.
So if we did the 50%, you would want a cap that says, we'll do that, but there's a cap. All right, Sheila. You also said define events. At some point, we have to figure out if we want to extend this beyond the Christmas parade, we'd have to do some definitions. That's not going to happen tonight. All right. You also were okay with increasing parking
Very much so.
to 20. Lisa threw out 25, which
20 was where we were. And I've been pushing for 20 this whole time. Because
right.
I think the visitors to the borough during these major events are willing to pay that.
they did last year. Okay. Do you want to keep all that $20?
I have always been saying we're going to split the parking because I'm parking committee and I'm like, I have some say there. If we can figure out a way that makes more sense, I think that is better.
All right. You were nervous about, no, you were not nervous about extending parking to the surface lots. Are you up for extending?
Absolutely.
Okay. 50% labor or 10,000 for the police?
I think 50% labor makes more sense.
Are you against 10,000 for the police? Or you like
No,
if people
I'm not against anything.
okay.
Some money.
From the police?
Just like to give events. I want more events. So I think that making this more palatable is better.
Okay. All right. So right now, either or of those could work. All right, Bernie. Defining events, later date, you're up for that?
Yes, that's good. I think the mayor made an excellent point that the Christmas parade is a unicorn and it should be treated exactly that way because it's a standalone event that highlights the community of Westchester. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you're up for increasing the parking?
Yes.
$20.
$20. Yeah.
Okay. And you are up for keeping the parking? Like all the $20 because we'll give the money a different way, or do you want to split parking?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever works. Because we're actually increasing our contribution
Other ways?
other ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You said you
The mayor
wanted-
made a good point that the parking fund is one of the only enterprise funds we have in the borough where we're allowed to make a profit. That's the only one. It used to be wastewater, but wastewater is no longer part of it. But that is an enterprise fund, but we have to reinvest. The parking fund is an enterprise, a complete enterprise fund. And to the mayor's point, it's a variable as well,
Yeah, I think we're leaning that way,
Yeah,
just
I think
based
we
off
should
the
just
other.
keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're, where am I? You said you wanted surface parking extended. right?
Yeah.
Yes. And then are you okay with either labor you said labor at 50%. What about the mayor's idea of just a flat 10,000 that comes straight out of police services?
It's either or, you know, it's
Right. Do you have a-
50%. Yeah, if it's 50%, we're going to give them 8,000, you know, there you go. If it's, you know, because we have to bring in, mutual aid because of what's going on, that number may go up and may get closer to the 10,000. So 50% of whatever the cost is. And, yeah, capped at 10, yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Stacy.
All right, Brian with a Y. Defining.
Yeah, I think we're starting to align on some stuff here.
Yeah, surface parking.
Yeah, include that, keep the parking fee, put that at $20 for all of it, and then we keep that to help offset our discounts.
Okay.
There's a bit of a difference between 50% labor that comes in on the run rate of I'm just looking at the invoiced amounts for the Christmas parade over the last 3 years. So half labor expense comes in around $6,800 on average, the run rate. It's been going up. So,
So if you had.
so let's just round it to 7. So we could just say it's $7,000. That would be half. All right. The police expense has been pretty steady because we haven't increased the number of hours. We went up by 1 hour, it looks, in the last 3 years, back in 2024. That expense is hovering right around $9,300. So we're talking like a couple $1,000s between the two. I'm fine with either one.
Do you have a ranking?
I still think that we do 50% labor for public works and police, and we cap it at $10,000. The total contribution.
Okay. All right, Brian with an I.
I mean, I agree with that. And we just reevaluate it every couple of years after the police contracts have been ratified.
Well, that'll change the hourly rate that will show us. So these hourly rates right now of like 72, the mixed rates, I think once we have the new contracts, the inputs here will change. So that should automatically adjust. So our estimates will go up, and then the 50% would still be.
If we just keep it then at a flat 50%.
The inputs, though, the hourly rates will go up next.
Right.
We know that these variables here will go up
Right.
in 5 years, or based on inflation, or
Right.
So I think that will satisfy the not having to revisit if we lock in something now. We know that
50%?
Yeah.
I'm fine with 50%.
Yeah.
Expanding the lots, $20 fee.
I think this is where I'm going to read out where I think we are aligning. And if anyone has any visceral reactions to it that you don't agree, say aye, okay? Well, for the Christmas parade only, increase our parking to $20 for the day or for the 4 o'clock hour? For the day, all right, for the day, Ramsey. And include the surface lots, okay? We keep all that money, the $20, because we're gonna give 50% of all labor costs to the chamber with a cap of $10,000, which then aligns kind of with the police costs. And then we'll talk later about other events and what they mean and if they are worthy as the Christmas parade.
I have one
Yes.
concern.
Yeah.
It's a concern. I'm not demanding anything. We got a lot of pushback when the events parking fee was a surprise or shifted or whatever, however you want to say that. I think for public perception, they don't care who puts on what event. So if the Halloween parade costs $10 to park, the Christmas parade should not cost $20.
Comments from our attendees that are residents here that Lisa?
And I think that goes back to defining an event, whose event, right? And what we're doing for each event. Because I can guarantee you that Porch Fest will be here,
Yep, Karen,
right?
Margaret.
Asking for the same thing that the chamber is getting for the Christmas parade.
And I think that's why we also need to get a good understanding of the attendance of the Christmas parade, because I do believe it's special. I do believe, I don't know, was it 10, 20,000 people? It's in town center, so people are drawn into the businesses because they are there, whereas other events that are tertiary to the borough may never make it into town center. They may enjoy the borough, but not actually get there. So I definitely think I agree. I agree.
And to that note, again, Porch Fest, as lovely as it is and as big as it is, does not compare to the Christmas parade. End of story. It just does not. It doesn't even meet all those 15 points you mentioned. And secondly, to the point of making this for just the Christmas parade only, I think when you muddy the waters and include the public works in it, then you muddy the waters with all the rest of the events by saying, well, you're including public works in theirs when you shouldn't be. Why can't we get a discount in public works? Public works is public works. All of the events need public works mostly. However, what is important is the safety and security of the public. And I think that we can make a valid point that the police presence is needed, demanded, and have to be there regardless of who was putting this Christmas parade on. They would still have to be there. And, you know, in the future, we have seen that we're going to need, that the Westchester Chamber is going to need more policing, perhaps. They might have to call other people, maybe not this year, but maybe in future years. So I think you should not muddy the water and be murky about adding public works to it. I think this should be specific to policing, and that's why I specified it as such. Because when you do that, then you open yourself up for other people saying, well, why can't we get a discount on public works? Whereas when you limit it to the police, you can say your event does not have 2, 3, 5,000 people, but this event does. It has 15,000 people, and so it warrants this amount of policing. And this is why we're doing it, whether it's in kind or how we choose to do it. I think it makes the case for it.
Okay, so I think that's a good point. Does anybody disagree that maybe we shift it from 50% of labor to just the police and call it a day on that one?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
That is a completely different conversation than what I brought up, which was public perception of parking fees.
Okay, that is true. But I think, so you.
I think when somebody drives in and parks their car and it's the Christmas parade and it's a special event, it should not be a different price than the special event at the Halloween parade. We tried very hard to get event fee structure set. I wanted it at 20. Everybody disagreed with that, wanted it at 10. So now the special event fee is set at 10. What we're talking about is inconsistently raising only the Christmas parade. And I think the public perception, they don't care who's putting it on. They have no idea who's putting it on. They never will. But they do care when they come to Westchester for a special event. They don't want the surprise. They don't want to say, oh, it's $8 today or it's $42 today. Why?
Sheila, I
And
agree
would
with you.
agree with you that parking should be consistent, because you did have that convoluted conversation last year about parking, and you all agreed to take it to 10. And that's why I think it was 10 last Christmas. So whatever it should be consistent. But again, I will say, that's a different conversation. That has nothing to do with police for the Christmas parade. You can decide what you want it to be, but it should be all consistent. And I would say to you this, not only be consistent, but keep all the money for all of the events, because that's the only time we can fundraise. We should not be splitting parking with nobody, period.
So can we say that we are changing all event parking fees to $20 for the garages and the surface lots during that day? And does that also include meters? Ramsey?
It's on first, the Christmas parade is always on first Friday, so meters.
I
What
think this needs to
if,
go back to committee.
yeah,
What, the parking?
Because
Yeah, I
parking
would recommend
piece-
going the parking piece, go back to committee.
Because it goes back to, we still have to then define what an event is with regards to, but are you okay though if we if we increase the parking fee for the Christmas parade to 20, knowing that it's going to go back to committee to talk about the other events
it
for?
makes me furious that we're making it inconsistent, but I will let that go. But it very much hurts my heart. Because we worked so long on making a consistent event fee.
Since I think we're agreeing that we're keeping the parking, can we have the parking fee conversation outside? of
Okay,
this?
that's fair. All right, that, okay. All right, so, okay, good. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so now, you might not have to say anything. You can-
I was just here in case there was something I could add.
All right, so right now, we are saying, our consensus is keep $10 parking fee, but include the surface lots. We keep all the $10. Or,
20.
This is until it goes back to committee and we change it to 20 or 25.
Yeah, the
Whatever
only
you
thing,
want to change it to.
the only thing we're, the
Talking
only
about
thing.
the Christmas parade tonight, right? That's what we're talking about tonight.
Correct.
That's what's on the agenda. So we're talking about, I'm with you. It should be $20 for every event. I'm with you. But tonight we're talking about the Christmas parade, right? We have decided we are going to limit the discussion to the Christmas parade. And the special event fee is $20.
The special event fee is $10. Because
And the Christmas parade money, you don't need to make a decision tonight on the Christmas parking. You just need to make a decision on what we're going to do for the Christmas parade.
Correct. With the
They're
police.
two different issues.
Right, with the police, I think the consensus on the dais is $10,000. That will cover the Christmas parade for this year, and then we would reevaluate that every couple of years once the police contract has been ratified. Does that sound all right for everyone?
so, I think we're all aligned on that. We're all aligned on keeping the parking money. I think right now, we're aligned on $20, but Sheila wants to yes and that one to all the events.
But
And
that,
so
yeah,
whether,
that's,
yeah, whether or not we have time, we can take that one more month to figure out the $20 for everything, because it does not impact at this point the chamber. If does that make sense to you? I'm
So
looking
we're
at
going to
Lisa
take
because
this to committee next month in parking committee. We will address what an event is that warrants a $20 parking fee.
the Christmas parade will definitely be on that list.
Yeah.
It's just that it would.
If we're doing that for parking, why aren't we doing that for the whole thing? Like, we need to define an event. We need to define what we're doing for the Christmas party and the other events, right? Like, we can't pick and choose. You know, we're going to do parking next month, but we're going to do the Christmas parade and what we're going to allocate to them tonight. But we're not going to talk about Porch Fest or the Chili Fest or, Brian's Run or Stanley's Run, or we're not going to do that. We're going to make an exception for the Christmas parade.
Yes.
that's my understanding.
I am against it because I sit through those parking committee meetings. And see, this is a huge. This is a big issue. again, we're walking away from having a consistent standard approach. And we have an opportunity to straighten this out in committee. I'm not asking you to give up this. I am asking for all the committees to go back next month and figure out what the event is, but I'm going to do it at parking.
And then through the ACT committee, we could figure out what defines an event. I'm okay. I just want to make a motion here that we allocate $10,000 of the,
Yeah.
right.
The,
Oh, okay.
no.
No, it's 10,000.
It's the
No,
police.
it's 10,000.
We're going with the.
We're not
police
including the
fees
public
with
works.
the cap, yes.
Only the police, $10,000 to be capped for the Christmas parade. That will be reevaluated after the new contract has been ratified. That way, Katie doesn't have to keep coming back here every year and we could move on from this conversation. Is there a second to that?
Second.
We can't make a motion on that tonight.
Well,
Yeah, we just need to
we
put it
could
on.
discussion, so then we could put it on, we
So-
could put it on,
So for consent
we could put it on
tomorrow,
consent.
it sounds like the police fees with a cap of $10,000 and the fact that whatever parking fees we decide on for events, we are keeping.
Yes.
That is the other decision that was made. The dollar value of the parking is going to go back to next month.
I think it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear let me help with process. It's kind of clear where there's some disagreement and where there's some agreement. But I think for council to put something on the consent agenda, you need something to agree to. And I heard in the beginning of this conversation, it was going to be a memorandum of understanding between the borough and the Greater Westchester Chamber of Commerce on what we were going to do to facilitate the Christmas parade. So I might suggest to the chair that this came out of finance and revenue, that you send it back to finance and revenue. We get a list of recommendations that comes out of this conversation that just happened. You did a great summary recap of it, Nicole. We create a document next month. It comes back up through committee and then you can approve that. And then there can also be parallel conversations about what you want to do about parking for all events. And that can take place in the parking committee or ACT if you want to. You can talk about it in every committee if you want to. But this came out of finance. Let's work out the document you want to approve next month, because I think you did some good work to get some agreement tonight.
And probably enough work that'll give you some idea of where it's headed to. Okay. I like that idea. Go back to finance? Back to finance?
Fine with it. We just got to figure it out.
All
And then
right.
ACT committee is going to determine the events.
What events?
Well, I mean, we just explore.
My suggestion would be I'm still comfortable. Difference, but I think $10,000 quite generous. Expenses currently right now, and you make money.
Mhm.
So. It's necessary.
I'd like to move forward with Mr. Metrick's suggestion. I would not agree for this to be on consent tomorrow. I don't want to discuss it again tomorrow, but I would not vote yes where it landed today.
Okay, so we'll take back where we are mostly aligned, back to the finance committee. Parking committee can talk about the parking and ACT committee can talk about what they think is a stipulation for.
Or just a list of criteria that we can start having a conversation with. We can borrow what Ms. Walker was kind to send us, and I think a lot of it fits, although the city of North Carolina is quite large.
A lot bigger, yeah.
Or city of Wilmington, excuse me. And they have a lot more events, and a lot more of them probably do bring commerce into that area. So if that's one of our criteria, then a lot of these will get knocked out.
Okay, Dana, you got it? We're close. All right. Do you have anything?
I just wanted to thank the mayor and council for this conversation tonight. We're consistently and constantly talking about the Christmas parade at our board level with the chamber, and my board members were aware that I was going to be coming here tonight, and I did not anticipate a decision tonight or anything on consent agenda tomorrow. I made my board aware of that. I kind of assumed that there would be some further conversation, which I appreciate. And just want to offer that obviously can attend committee meetings to be part of the conversation. But if there's anything that, that I can do to lend some just thoughts to defining the events, some of the information that I had sent around that we found as we're doing all kinds of research on parades across the country. I'm, just grateful to be working with all of you and appreciate the ongoing conversation and support. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from residents in attendance? All right. Lively conversation.
Item 2, motion to reallocate capital project budget expenses for Parks and Recreation 2025, Horace Pippin Park and the John O'Green Park. Basically what happened here is one project is $20,000 more, one project is $20,000 less. And essentially, it is going to be a net zero for these projects. Mr. Metrick, do you have any comments? No comments? No, that was a 3-0 decision. Any public comment? Comments on the dais? Any objections? We can move that to consent. All right, the following items here are purchase requirements. Eagle Point gun for $18,000. That's 9mm and ammunition for the police department. Marshall Square Park repairs, $18,980.32. That's for repair for an accident at the park. Adorama, $21,136.35. That's drones for the police department. Motorola, $18,750. That's cloud storage. USALCO, $12,835.20. Phosphorus removal. T2 Systems, $15,402. That's for 4 ticket devices for the parking committee. All of those were approved unanimously. Any public comment? Comments from the dais? Any objections? We can move that to consent.
We ready for public safety? Okay. For the Public Safety Committee, we had a motion to approve candidates submitted by the mayor to the Borough Council for hire as police officers. Borough Council approved required for candidates for hire and promotion in the police department. No committee recommendation. We didn't have the names of the candidates, and I guess that's why you're here, Chief.
Thank you. Josh Lee, I'm the police chief. I'm sorry I wasn't here for the committee meeting. I was on a family vacation. But I'm here tonight because I need your help. In January, this council gave approval to the Civil Service Commission to replace or to add police officers to the force to fill vacancies that we've had in the department. We've had 2 vacancies in the police department since June of last year. We've been operating, so, with 2 officers short. Very excited to get that process started in January. I reported to you a few times through that process, and we brought a number of candidates in. Was very excited to get through the long, tedious process, which includes, and I'll just give a quick overview, but which includes an oral exam, a physical fitness exam rather, and a written exam. If the candidates pass those 3 exams, they get to background investigation. The background investigation is a very thorough process by which candidates undergo a complete screen of their background. So a detective will look into their history, their employment history, their education, their credit history, their criminal history, if any. We'll interview friends, relatives, neighbors, teachers of the candidates, and then we'll move them to a polygraph examination. That polygraph examination really gets to the character of the person to make sure that the people are A, being honest about the answers that they're giving, and B, are suitable for candidates for police officers. One thing that I always say about trying to find a good police officer is first find a good person, and we can make and train that person to be a good police officer. So having said all that, we get from a big number to a much smaller number. And tonight, I need your help because I'm going to ask council to put on consent for tomorrow the hiring of 2 police officers, the 2 candidates that rose to the very top of the list. To say cream of the crop would be really an understatement. Those 2 candidates will bring our complement to a full complement. And it's very important timing wise that if we can strike while the proverbial iron is hot, because one candidate literally just finished the police academy last week, and one candidate is eligible for the police academy and will be enrolled in the police academy. We have a very short window of time to get that second candidate into the police academy. And if council puts on consent tonight, we will make those deadlines. If they don't, we will not. So I'd like to give you a quick background on each candidate, and then I'd ask you for consent. So number 1, Gavin Storlazzi. Gavin is a Chichester High School graduate from Delaware County and is a Westchester University graduate with a degree in criminal justice. Gavin just last week graduated from the Delaware County Community College Municipal Police Academy, and he's available to be in uniform in training almost immediately once he gets through the conditional offer of employment, which includes the medical screening and the psychological screening. Candidate number 2 is Christopher DeBaptiste. Christopher is a Westchester East High School graduate, a graduate of the Universal Technical Institute Technical School, and will be enrolled in the Delaware County Community College. For Christopher, because he does not have the police academy yet, again, we have that very tight window to reach. I know a little bit more about each candidate, which I could provide more information if you had more information. Very interestingly, for candidate number 2, you'll recognize that last name. He happens to be the grand nephew of Her Honor Mayor DeBaptiste. Recognizing that when that candidate came to the top of the list, I had a conversation with the mayor and a conversation with the Civil Service Commission. And the Civil Service Commission approved, along with their solicitor, with having a third party in the room to interview all of the candidates. That third party was former honorable, well, she's still honorable, but former Mayor Carolyn Committa. So Carolyn Committa and I sat in on that interview. And if Her Honor were here, she would agree that both of these candidates are outstanding candidates. And it's my sincere ask of you that you help me, help the officers, and let's get these people hired.
Yeah, I move to put it to consent.
Any other comments? Consent?
Thank you for your time.
Comments?
No, you don't have to discuss it tomorrow to make a motion. It can be placed on consent. It's written as a motion, and things are placed on consent when no member of council dissents. It's been a process. Decisions and then we have to vote this, right? Yeah, there's two entry points or touch points for Borough Council in the hiring and promotion of officers. The first one is Borough Council has to direct the Civil Service Commission to commence the process of finding a candidate for promotion or a candidate for hire. That decision has to come from Borough Council. Then Borough Council is out of the picture until this point in time when a candidate's brought forth by the mayor. And council then has to verify that appointment or promotion. Those are the 2 steps in the process that council has.
The first part of that, when we directed the Civil Service Commission, when was that? That was back in January or?
Must have been, I think that might have been November. It might have been last year.
It was either late last year or early this year. We didn't start the process until January, so I believe it would have been November, December
All right,
last year.
thanks for the clarification. It's just helpful.
Simone, Chief, the pool of candidates, where did we start with how many? And then we got all the way down to the final 2. Where do the number of people, and at what point during the process did we lose most of the candidates?
So we started with 100, I'll be as brief as I can and still answer every point. We started with 128 candidates that filled out the application, the online application. Of that 128, just under 70 showed up for the test. So a little more than half showed up to take the test. Of that number, and when I say test, the written examination, the number that passed that written examination was a little more than half of that 70. It was about 40. And forgive me if I'm wrong by 4 or 5. And then of those 40-ish that passed the written examination, 3 or 4 failed out at the physical examination part. Now we have a number in the high 30s, and we go through that number and we start doing background checks. And about half of those wash out in the background checks, a little more than half, which leaves us with a number before we got to the point where we was able to start getting down to the final candidates. We have a number around a dozen. After tonight, you guys give consent and we hire 2 new officers, we have 4 officers left on the list, 4 candidates left on the list to get through. We may be able to find a viable candidate in those 4. I hope we are, but that's what's left.
That's amazing. The attrition that happens, going all the way through. I mean, what popped through my mind was in the middle where we start to lose people that didn't pass the background check.
And
I start to wonder, and of course, we don't know who the people are. I'm starting to wonder whether they would be fit to be a police officer somewhere else if they're not, qualified to be with us.
Well, what I can say is that in Westchester, and please hold me to it, I've said it before, I'll continue to say, we hire the best people that we can find. And if you don't meet that bar of being the best, there's not a place for you here at Westchester. We're fortunate where we found 2 that I'm here to tell you that I do think that they are. But if we didn't, I'd be right back here asking you, let's start this process all over again. And we will get to the bottom of the list of this list, whether it's being able to hire more people off it or not. But when we get to the bottom, I will be right back here asking you, give me permission to go find more of the best. They're out there. We have to find them. But you've empowered me to do that, and we've worked well together to do that. And the entire department is very, very pleased with that.
Thank you, Chief.
No, thank you. Thanks.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sorry.
Just considering that you've been too short for a year, is there any way that you can anticipate your attrition in your force so that you can start this process
Absolutely.
in advance of us then being 2 down for a year and then going through a 6-month, or 2 down for 6 months and then go through a 6-month process?
Absolutely, and that's something we do. If we could have found 2 additional candidates off that last list, Her Honor would have hired them. We didn't get to that point. We got to the bottom, and rather than say, "Hey, let's let this person in," we said, "No. We're still looking for the best." That's why I'm here saying, "Hey, we've been too short for a year," and now I'm so excited to say,
you would bring 3 on then.
yes, exactly.
That sounds good to me. I mean, thanks for answering.
Thank
the
you.
question.
I really appreciate it.
Also, I just wanted to add, the process that the Westchester Police uses has more accountability than some other places. Other places don't take civil service exam. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but other places don't have the rigorous requirements and background checks that Westchester goes through.
Yes, Her Honor is right. We're obligated by civil service to follow a very strict process, which includes those 3 exams, I talked about. In addition to that, we're not in the business of hiring people that we don't think are going to be excellent. The most important thing we can do is hire the right police officers. So we have very high standards. We don't go for the minimum standard. We go for a high standard. And sometimes we pay the price for that by being short for 2 officers. But again, I'll repeat it. I can't say how excited I am to say that we'll be at full staff once you guys give the thumbs up. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions? Any questions from anyone in attendance?
I'm good.
All right.
Okay, moving on to Item number 2, motion to approve special event applications. We had St. Agnes Feast of the Assumption, August 10th, which again is a reoccurring event. And then we have Mount Carmel is partnering with the mayor's office for a block party on July 19th. And both of these were approved 3-0. Any questions, comments, consent?
Okay, we'll move on to the Smart Growth Committee. Motion to approve letter of support to Safe Harbor of Chester County for the proposed building project. This was sent to us, it's attached. The backstory is Safe Harbor came to us last week in Smart Growth and talked about their vision for the future, and expanding the building, expanding the services in order to better support our homeless community of Westchester and even beyond. We were all very impressed with the work that's been done by the team, and we definitely think it's the right thing to do. They have the land in the parking lot, and there's things that they can do. And so they asked for a letter of support to kind of help them get started. And we said, yeah, let's draw something up. We have something here. I will say, I think it's a little more detailed than what we are able to say that we support at this time, because there's zoning processes and all the things that we have to go through from getting buildings approved and things like that. So we're probably going to have to take this one back and do some wordsmithing on it in order to get to something that's a little bit more general that will still give you guys what you need in order to know that you're supported by us in the community, and we're not going to come out and start doing what some communities do when projects like this come about. So I that's kind of my position when I read through the letter. I want to open it up if anyone else has any other comments or how we want to take a look at this, maybe take it back to Smart Growth for next month and come back next month.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I think in general, we.
Come on.
Hi, Brian. How are you? I'm Ruby Abarea with Safe Harbor. We presented last week. Our timeline, I already have some grants that I've written, but we're kind of stalled right now. So as far as our timeline for writing grants, we're kind of in a holding pattern and raising funds until we can get letters of support, particularly from the borough, although we've had other support letters from public officials. Our board meeting ran last night, and based on the presentation last week and how it went, our board voted to go ahead and engage the Tono Group for project management and move forward with phase 1 and the schematics and investing about $40,000 into that so we can get working on that and provide more detail. So the whole project, we're probably estimating, within the next couple of years. Tono Group, based on the funds that I'm able to raise, said they will work with us. So based on a $5 million project, we're going to start launching our capital campaign. I'm confident probably to be able to raise, half of that at least within the next year or two. And to be able, we're fiscally sound. So we would be able to generate the rest of that revenue while I continue running the capital campaign to meet that $5 million need. So we're hoping to start and finish the project over the next 2 to 3 years.
So I think to Brian's question, if we get our act together and get something updated wordsmith by
That would be
next month,
amazing.
you're good?
That'd be
Okay,
awesome.
All right.
And I put extra detail in there because I know this was going before a group that didn't necessarily hear the presentation. So we're open to whatever, you want to put in this letter of support. Just towards the end there is the most important part about, supporting us for grant writing partnerships and things like that.
Can I suggest to council that we put this on discussion? I'm happy to come in tomorrow early, get a draft written out that alleviates your concerns, that we can discuss tomorrow, that we can just get this done tomorrow on discussion agenda. I don't think this is a big lift or ask, and I think I know where council's headed, judging from the emails I got individually from you all.
All right.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that. So I was hoping we could, if it's just a few wordsmithing tweaks or exclusions, because we don't want to overpromise, I think that's great if we can get that done.
And Ruby will communicate with you in the morning as well.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, all of you, and thanks, Sean. I appreciate it.
All right, good. All right, then number 2, motion to approve HARB certificates of appropriateness. 17 North High Street, 202 West Gay Street, and 235 East Market Street. We all recommended 3-0 to approve these. Any questions? Nope. All right. And then motion to approve resolution for final subdivision plans for minor lot line change at 401 West Washington Street, the Elks Club. Basically, the Elks and the neighbor are just realigning their driveway lot line. We were all okay with it. So any questions? No? Anything? Okay, so consent. Other business. I just wanted to bring up the one thing we also had at, oh. I'll do my other, okay, so approve request from the bid to appoint Deborah Mack to fill a vacancy on the bid board of directors. Everybody good there? All right, consent. Discuss appointing Panoni as alternate zoning officer and to manage all land development subdivision applications. I don't know if Ramsey, if you want to give a little highlight on this one.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, so I was just requesting, since Panoni really has been behind the scenes helping us through the land development process and knowing that we're going to transition to a new director for building and housing sometime soon. I was requesting that we appoint Panoni as the manager to manage all land development subdivision applications for the near future and to also be our alternate zoning officer, just for more support.
Any questions?
I'm fine with it.
Does Panoni work for the borough still? Aren't they
Yes.
contracted by the borough?
I'm sorry?
Is that Fox Garden, the chicken coop?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. What did you say?
Is that the Fox Garden, the chicken coop?
I can't hear. I don't know. Oh, no. And I'm sorry. I can't hear. No, I know.
See, that was the country in me.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. No, I don't believe
You
so.
should have known what I was saying.
Actually, the fox got my chickens, so I don't have any more, but
Oh, so the fox was guarding your chicken.
fox-
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
yes. But no, this is not a conflict of interest. And Panoni really has been behind the scenes kind of carrying us through in the transition before I was in building and housing. So this is pretty consistent with what a lot of other municipalities do, and it is reimbursable by the MPC. So it's not a huge change, but it helps us. And then they could also attend planning commission to help give some insight on, the bigger plans.
What often happens with engineering firms is that if they're in the habit of representing clients on the private side, they make sure they know where those clients operate so that they aren't also trying to represent the municipal interests in those municipalities where their private side clients might apply for land development subdivision. That's why you get things like, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Fox in a chicken house?
The pinch hitting engineer or solicitor. You get the
Like the
conflict.
alternate-
Conflict counsel or conflict engineer has to come in.
Conflict.
Time to go.
All right, yeah. And any questions from anybody here? Sheila, you looked like you had okay. All right, anything from those in attendance? All right, we're good. All right, so I guess that goes to consents.
Thank you.
And then discuss solicitor attendance at the zoning hearing for 400 North Penn Street, change of use application.
So, and I'm so sorry because right before the last meeting, Sean wrote a very nice narrative about the property and I mumbled through it. So, there was an application received. The property is 400 North Penn Street. The property it's been acquired by the Westchester School District in 2025. The property has been used as a 2-story dwelling. It's currently assessed at 141 $1,000. The district is proposing to use the property as an educational use, which is permitted by special exception by the zoning hearing board. They're proposing no changes to the building and plan to use it to support its independent living transition house program, which is located in the property right next door, which has already been granted special exception. They're also seeking a variance from zoning requirements for off-street parking. There's currently one off-street space. So I might not have sent it. And the applicant has stated that 2 employees will work on site and no analysis has been performed to determine if this is satisfactory. That's the application.
Further discussion is for us to decide whether or not to send a solicitor
Yep.
to oppose this plan?
Yes,
Okay.
which I'm not recommending. This is just
Yes,
standard procedure.
so.
Any
No.
concerns?
I have no
You don't
concerns.
think,
The
no?
only question I have is the lawsuit.
Well, I think that's been lost. It's already been purchased. They own it. They can do whatever they want with it.
The right, oh, he's trying to put up a zoning, so is it the right zoning district? Well, into a business thing.
It's a permitted use, but it's only permitted by special exception. So the zoning hearing board gives the special exception. So special exceptions, they're not special, they're not exceptional. They're ordained deviations from the base zoning code. So you're saying this is kind of a little special use, it fits here, and you have to do it by certain rules and conditions, and the board can impose any rational rules and conditions on the approval on top of that. So a special exception is a permitted use. It just can only be granted by the zoning hearing board.
And to, Ramsey, do they have enough parking on that site to sustain what they plan on doing?
Yep.
Parking on this.
So we all recall how parking is regulated for non-residential uses in the borough. It's by a study. So the applicant in this case has not submitted a study because they're only going to have 2 employees there. It's a residential home. So they have applied for variance to the zoning hearing board from the parking regulations. And I think the borough should determine how many parking spaces they should provide. They currently have 1 off-street parking space, you can see in that picture right there. And if they're only going to have, there should be some limits to what this property can develop into in the future. So I think that if you want to preserve the residential character of that structure and the single parking space, you should have some conditions at the zoning hearing that says thou shalt not build more off-street parking here.
So they're seeking relief on the parking because they want to add parking or because they don't, like, if they have a certain type of business, we require a certain amount of parking? What's the relief they're looking for?
Can't speak for Mr. Jennings. He's the attorney for the client, so I don't know. I don't know their intention. You asked a question about intention. It sounds.
That's right. Yeah,
not-
yeah. What's the relief?
Sorry.
They're saying they want relief, but they're not saying what
And
relief.
for a variance from the borough's off-street parking standards.
But
All right.
what's our standard for this?
And it is that the borough determines the required spaces needed according to a study that's submitted either by the applicant or by the borough. So it's a moving target.
So is your recommendation that the solicitor attend?
Recommend that the solicitor attend and provide some guidance and I think that the salient point, the important issue about this is you go out there today, you walk up to Henderson High School, it's this beautiful brick structure that they don't intend to change. It would be great if it stayed that way. It can still have an institutional use in it, can still have an office use in it, but let's keep this building that belongs, that's been there a long time, looking the way it does today reasonably.
I mean, the good news is the building next door to it, they vastly improved, or somewhere along the way, it vastly improved over the past like 10 or so years.
The building next door to it looks nothing like this.
No, I know.
Yeah.
It's the gray building, but it was like a rundown old brown building, like about 10 years ago. Yeah, that someone went in and redid. Yeah, it's much better, Sean, than it was. Yeah, Dana knows. She's agreeing. She's like, yeah, somebody made improvement.
Yeah, I agree with you that we want to make sure that the outside of the building doesn't change because it's in a neighborhood, and it's an anchor of the neighborhood, even though it's right across the street from school, so.
Okay, so are we aligning on sending and Daryl's got a.
Is there a hearing date schedule? I believe signs are posted on the property.
Well, it says discuss the need for the solicitor attendance June 23rd, 2025 is the hearing. And yes, there's a sign out there because I saw it.
And how will you feel when they request a parking permit in a residential area? Thank you.
So I think that's the thing that's got me held up, right? That's not necessarily the use. It's the request that we know is going to be coming down the road because
Yeah.
it's going to be exactly, and they can't get, there's one off street,
Yeah, you have to
but
park
there's
on
two
the sidewalk
employees.
if you
So
put cars in there, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's part of the school. They should park in the school parking lot. Truthfully, it's right across the street. It's not very difficult. But okay, so it sounds like we're all leaning towards send the solicitor.
Yes.
Okay, send the solicitor. All right.
Yes.
All right, I have one more other business that I want to add to this list. All right, I just want to highlight, last week, we also had a presentation regarding, it was from a couple of organizations that supported rescue, dog rescue, and animal rescue. And they came to us asking about potentially putting an ordinance into the borough that prohibits the sale of dogs and cats and rabbits. I think it's like the current standard that's out there. And we don't have that problem right now. None of our pet stores actually sell animals, but we also understand that's good that it's not happening now, but it may be a good thing for us to do something a little proactive just in case someone ever wants to come along, because, we all know what happens with puppy mills and having the wrong person trying to sell an animal. And we in the borough know everyone really loves their animals. So it's something, just for awareness. It sounds like it's going to be on public safety's agenda next month to talk through and what we would do and what we would say. But I just thought it was worth bringing up here as another business, as a comment, just to make sure that everybody's aware and if anyone out there has any feelings or opinions to provide, please do not hesitate to come to the public safety meeting or email your borough council rep or what have you.
is it just a question? Is this because there's no state rule, there's no state law? We would have to put something in place that would be specific to.
I would
situation.
guess there's no state law for sure. I mean,
That's what I'm
there's
wondering,
tons of-
because otherwise it seems like this protection would be in place
Yeah.
at something other than us. And what
Yeah,
would we
there
do?
might be other
How would we enforce
towns.
something like this anyway?
Well, in the borough, in the borough, it's probably a little bit like we wouldn't open up businesses. I guess if somebody's selling like a dog out of their back garage, that would be a little tricky. We'd have to kind of catch them. But from a business standpoint, you're not going to be able to open up a shop and have a couple of dogs or cats or what have you for sale in the shop. So that would be one way that we would, not have it happen. Yeah. Okay.
So Nicole, the shop that's over on Church Street that sells accessories, if that owner decided that somebody had a litter of kittens that they wanted to get rid of, and they put a playpen in there, and they put the kittens in there with toys and stuff like that, that owner would not be permitted by our ordinance to be able to sell those kittens. They could give the kittens away, I guess, or dogs away. So
That would be my thought. Yeah. I mean, we can talk about but yeah, I would think they wouldn't be able to sell them, but if they were like some kittens that they got for
Yeah.
free, because giving the kittens away,
Mhm.
it's not, no puppy mill or whatever is gonna
Sure.
want to give them
Yeah.
away, you
Yeah.
know?
Instead of, just like the plastic bag ban, instead of us trying to create an ordinance, it'd be great if somebody could give us a ordinance that's already
They
done.
did, they
It
did. We have
Okay.
one, yeah. to
Yeah, so we
begin
can,
with,
so we can look at,
review.
yeah.
Yes, yes, and we can, Dana, did you email it to everyone, or did we just get it on the Public Safety Committee? Okay, that would be great, just so you guys can see the example.
I only have, I'm totally fine with this, I think. But like Concord Pet has cats in the pet store. Not that they sell, but that are,
Well, they're not in the borough, so.
right. But let's just imagine that they are. They're finding homes for those cats for whoever, I don't remember what organization those cats belong to, but are we still allowing that? Like if,
Like, it's like what Bernie, you're talking about the cats from the rescue. Yeah, rescue cats are good. Like, yeah. Mhm. But they're rescue cats. This is, my understanding is this is about resale through,
Profit.
yes.
Profit.
And my understanding would be, although because I used to volunteer and go there, I know with the dog rescue, like you can't just go into a pet store, even if the dog rescue has an event at the pet store, you have to go back to the dog rescue to actually adopt the dog and do, yes. So that, I don't know if that's the same with the cat rescue. I would think it might be because it might be a law thing, but point being, rescue is very different from the idea, like what the individuals that presented to us, I mean, they're all about rescue. They are rescue. And so it's not try to.
I just want to make sure that that's still allowed.
Yeah, we'll review and make sure that, but I think that they're going to be okay. Yeah.
I
mean,
would think so, but I'm going to ask the question just in case.
Just say. Petco, a multi-million dollar company, sell snakes and rats, and alligators and.
Well, we can
cats.
talk about the ordinance. Right now, Petco does not sell dogs, cats, or rabbits. They do sell reptiles and fish and things like that.
Okay.
So we can talk about what
Okay,
animals
good,
are on the
good.
ordinance.
Just
Yeah.
what she said about it.
We all the questions out? That was more of a
All the questions,
controversial topic than I thought. All right. Yes. All right. And it is 8:18 and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.